guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, or in this case tonight, I'm going to be covering part 4 to the story titled, Wife Thought I'd Agreed to an Open Marriage, instead I took her car, credit cards, and kicked her out. And guys, for most of you saw part 3 a few hours ago, and because of that, I'm not going to do a whole recap again because you guys all know what happened. And if you guys are new and want to know, go back and watch parts 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to pick up where things left off. So, well, I'll just say this. It left off with him talking to her dad, and the dad found out everything that she claims she did, which we all know is BS, and the dad now understands why he's getting a divorce, gave him his blessing, all that, and now we'll pick up where things left off. He says here, after talking to the dad, a week later, I called him again right after I got my positive STD test. I'm sure he loved hearing that. He seemed happy to hear from me. Again, asked me if I was calling to talk to Cheryl. Obviously, that's before he found out about the positive STD test. She'd be happy to hear from me. All she talks about is how much he loves me and how she ruined everything. I told him no, I didn't call to talk to her, but asked how he was doing. He told me he's doing as Cheryl was doing, up and down, mostly down. She started seeing a therapist that seemed to be helping. Less crying, but still hiding out in her room, brooding over her mistakes. Hopefully she'll get out and try to find work, even part-time, just to be doing something. He and her mom were making sure she was getting what she needed to start healing. Also, one bit of good news. Cheryl had an old friend who grew up down the block with whom she had known since elementary school. His name was Roy. Roy had returned to help his elderly parents move out of the house they sold. Cheryl's father had run into him on the street, and he asked after Cheryl. Cheryl's father told Roy that Cheryl was home. She'd had some setbacks in her life. Setbacks, really? Which she caused. And was very depressed and came back home to get herself together. He told Roy that if he could stop by to visit Cheryl, at least say hello, seeing an old friend would possibly benefit Cheryl's recovery greatly. So we're going to have another victim here. Poor Roy. Unless Roy was doing her when she was in junior high. I don't know. So she'd be glad to see him. Roy said he'd stop by that evening. Roy had come by to say hello, and Cheryl even agreed to take a walk with him. Except to see her therapist, this was the first time she'd been out of the house since she returned. Roy started coming by every evening, and their walks lasted longer and longer. She's probably sucking him off in the bushes. Cheryl always seemed glad to see him. Mom and Dad were overjoyed. Roy happened to be in town near when Cheryl was home. But he would be leaving town a week or so when he finished helping his parents. This guy needs to head for the fucking hills before this girl ruins another guy. I asked if this was the same Roy who went to university with Cheryl. He said yes, but he didn't think they spent much time together. Aha! Now we're getting somewhere. Well, since she pretty much did everybody at university. Roy had a car, and Cheryl didn't. So for university holidays, Roy would drive Cheryl back and forth to and from school. I asked what Roy was doing now. Cheryl's father said that he thought Roy worked as a salesman for a company which sold stuff to the university. Then Cheryl's father went quiet, evidently thinking her seeing Roy might be a problem for me. He finally said that I should not be worried about Roy's intentions towards Cheryl. He's divorcing this guy's daughter. He doesn't give a shit who his soon-to-be ex, hangs out with. That they know each other forever, and Cheryl had told them years ago that Roy wasn't interested in women that way. But if his taking walks with Cheryl concerned me even the slightest, just say, and that would be the end of Roy's visits and their walks. I shouldn't be concerned. When she was younger, they were relieved that Roy was there to chaperone when she went out to parties or just hang out. Well, clearly Roy did a piss-poor job of chaperoning her at parties and such. He would keep an eye out for her, like a big brother. Was I okay with Cheryl spending time with her gay friend? I told him what Cheryl did or didn't do wasn't my concern any longer. He told me to let him know if it became an issue for me. This father, who I'm sure is a good guy, is not grasping the damage the daughter did to him, and this guy ain't coming back. End of fucking story. Cheryl can hang out with all the guys she wants to. I don't care, Dad. I never met Roy when he and Cheryl and I were at university together, but Cheryl told me about him. She and Roy started dating in high school and continued in college. Aha! They had been hot and heavy for a while in high school, broke up, and we were together again her freshman year at college. When Cheryl and I met, she told me Roy and her were already over. She said she needed him her freshman year because she was insecure. Noticing that's coming up again. didn't know anyone, so he was someone to hang out with. He was constantly cheating on her throughout their relationship. She got fed up and told him that going forward they could only be friends, but that was it. Roy was certainly into women. I wonder now who he was cheating on with whom. So the story that the father got that this Roy guy was gay obviously is bullshit. This girl is a piece of something. Cheryl's father asked how I was doing. I told him I was as well as could be expected. I was proceeding with the divorce, and she should really get a lawyer. He told me she didn't need a lawyer. If I really want a divorce, have your lawyer send over the divorce papers, and she'll sign them. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, no problem, Dad. No lawyer for your daughter. Sounds good to me. I told her dad that I had other news, and it was not good. He said, "What now?" It sounded like I was going to tell him that his daughter was a serial killer. Instead, I told him I tested positive for an STD, which I could only have gotten from Cheryl. Think your daughter's so sweet and innocent now, Daddy-O? I told him what the STD was and from my doctor had prescribed. She needed to see a doctor as soon as possible. The long-term effects of this disease was not pleasant, but it was curable. I thought he would ask if I was sure I got the STD from her, but he didn't. I guess now he understands who his daughter is. He said, "Great, one more thing." He thanked me for letting him know and told me he would make an appointment as soon as we hung up. It's just keep getting better and better for him. He asked me if I was sure I wanted a divorce. Are you kidding me? After all this, are you sure you want a divorce? Your daughter's no prize. I think he just wants to get rid of her. Please take this nut job out of my house. Maybe Cheryl and I could make it work together. She'd be 100 times improved if I would just talk to her for 5 minutes and offer her some hope for her future. Yeah, I'll talk to her. I'll tell her to go fuck herself. She has certainly learned her lesson and will be a faithful, loving wife from here on out. Oh my God. This guy actually believes what he's saying here. This guy is fucking delusional. I'm sure he's a nice guy to you, bro, and all that, but come on here. He doesn't want to believe the reality. And I can get a father doesn't want to believe their child is what she is, but come on here. I told him I needed to divorce and that I had nothing to say to her. There was no hope for us being together again. He said he understood, reiterated that I needed to talk, to give him a call, and thanked me again for letting him know about the STD, and we got off the phone. I didn't ask again about her willingness to take a polygraph. He didn't bring it up, and I didn't want to press him. I haven't talked to him since. You know what? Good. You've talked, and this story, you don't need to talk to him again, because he's going to probably bring up this crap again about maybe giving her another chance or some bullshit like that. No. He says, now, what really happened between Cheryl and Bob? Now we're getting on some good stuff here. I mentioned that one of my friends, Sean, was in a PhD program at the university. He mentioned that in the last story, or part 2. It wasn't the same program as Cheryl, but had been, but like most universities, the university was like a small town. Everyone knew someone who knew someone. He'd been at university for years, undergraduate and graduate school, and knew who knew whom. Right after I told Cheryl to leave, Sean asked me if I wanted him to keep track of what she was up to. He thought he could do this with her knowing. I told him no, I didn't care what she did. She was no longer my problem. He said okay, but I wondered if he would let it go. He had to hang around the university around between semesters because he worked in the physics lab, and lab work didn't stop for semester breaks. On New Year's Eve 2022, Sean insisted I go to a party with him hosted by some friends of his from the university. Free drinks, lots of pretty women, good conversation, etc., etc. I agree it's good that the guy telling the story here got out. But he doesn't need to be around any women right now. I said if I wasn't up to it, he told me that I was going to go to the party even if he had to knock me out and carry me there. I said okay, but I probably wouldn't stay long. So we went. I met some interesting people, including one young lady who was in a graduate school with Sean. She and I talked for hours. When the New Year's arrived, we pecked each other in the lips, embarrassed, but continued to talk. Around 2 a.m, I asked for her number, which she gave me, told her I would call her, and went to find Sean. Sean had been drinking all night and seemed pretty drunk. I told him I would drive him home. Dude, I get you need a distraction, but in your state of being, you don't need any chicks right now. You need to heal. Now, some guys may need to get some ass just to rebuild their confidence. I don't know, but you get the point. Be careful. And by the way, you have an STD, so you got to be careful here. Don't want to give it to anybody else. He told me in the car that he had talked with someone who was close friends with Bob. Turns out he wanted to go to the party, in part because he knew this friend of Bob would be there. Not as big a motivator as the free booze, but he thought he could get this guy to tell me finally what happened between Bob and Cheryl. He was right. The guy told him, "Did I want to hear?" And I said no. He was going to tell me anyway. It would be good for me to know. This friend of yours definitely gives you a kick in the ass when you need it. This is what the Bob told his friend, and his friend told Sean. Okay. After I threw her out on December 12th, Bob picked up Cheryl at my place. He took her back to his dorm, but Bob had a girlfriend. Of course Bob has a girlfriend. Bob's a chatter Tyrone. He's a bad boy. Of course he's cheating on somebody else with this guy's wife. They've been in a relationship for 2 years and were planning to marry after college. The girlfriend was home visiting her family after finals. During the school year, she had a part-time job in the evenings and Saturdays at a restaurant near the campus. Her boss called her almost as soon as she got home and told her he would hire her full-time during the semester break if she wanted to come back to work. She needed the money, so she said yes and drove a couple 100 miles to go back to school. Her dorm was closed between semesters while Bob's graduate school housing remained open. So she figured she'd stay with him until school started. She decided to surprise him and drove back to campus without telling him. The girlfriend, of course, knew nothing about Cheryl, and Cheryl didn't know about his girlfriend. There you go. This guy's wife, Cheryl, was banging the bad boy who had another girlfriend, and they didn't know about each other. This is how it works. And so obviously, Bob ain't in the picture. This wonderful guy, Bob, who she was throwing it all away for, to him, she's just another piece of ass. That's how it works. Now listen to this part. Late in the morning on December 13th, the next day after he kicked Cheryl out, Bob's girlfriend walked into Bob's dorm room and found Cheryl and Bob in bed together. She woke Cheryl up by slapping her hard as she could in the face and pulling her out of bed by her hair. Holy crap, I'd love to see that cat fight. She then began pummeling Bob. Cheryl jumped up and started dressing. The girlfriend asked Bob what the F was he doing. Bob told his girlfriend that he'd been drinking a lot at a bar near campus last night. This woman approached him there and told him her husband had thrown her out and she had no money and needed a place to stay. He felt sorry for her and told her she could crash at his place in his absent roommate's bed. He wasn't interested in sex with her because she was so much older and married. But he was very drunk, so they ended up in bed together. She meant nothing to him. Didn't even know her last name. He was planning to throw her out this morning. Oh, well, that makes everything better. Bob. We all knew Bob was a scumbag, and there you go. She's got exactly what she deserves. Bob then turned to Cheryl and told her to leave immediately. She had taken advantage of him because he was drunk. So one narcissistic piece of crap lying a-holes hooking up with another narcissistic piece of crap sociopath asshole. They're match made in hell. Stupid one-night drunken mistake. He would never hook up with someone so much older, let alone marry, if he wasn't so wasted. What was she doing in a college bar trying to bang college kids anyway? His good intentions just resulted in a bad outcome. He loved his girlfriend. He didn't want a drunken one-night stand with someone he didn't care about or would ever see again mess things up for him. He was sorry he had ever talked to her at the bar. Man, Bob threw her right under the bus. That's karma. Cheryl finished dressing and left with her stuff without saying a word to either Bob or his girlfriend. Tossed out both by her husband and her lover in a 24-hour period. What an accomplishment. Cheryl must have been so proud. I love these stories when karma comes back to bite these assholes. Oh, this is good. Bob's friend told Sean that he, the friend, knew what Bob said to Cheryl and his girlfriend was all BS. He knew Bob had been seeing Cheryl for months behind the girlfriend's back. Bob threw Cheryl under the bus for his girlfriend's sake. He didn't really care about Cheryl, but she was good-looking, fun in bed, and hooking up with an older married woman stroked his ego. Eventually, however, the girlfriend found out that Bob had lied about the relationship with Cheryl, and evidently others, and ended it with Bob. There you go. But you know what? Bob could give a shit, and either Bob will sweet-talk her in the future, or he'll get another chick. That's how the Bobs and Chads and Tyrones roll. To wrap it up, he says here, it's now early May of 2023, and a divorce will be final this July. Awesome, brother. Start the countdown. Cheryl's father was true to his word. Cheryl signed the divorce papers without a fuss. She got nothing except the money she'd taken from our account. I told my lawyer to let her keep that, my payment for her sexual favors. He says, shouldn't prostitutes be paid for their services? Besides clothes and jewelry, that's all she got for after 5 years of marriage. If everything else was hard, at least the divorce was relatively easy. You know, bro, you deserved that. You deserved to know what happened to... I'm glad your buddy pushed you to go to that party and find out about what happened with Big Bob and Cheryl. And now you got the satisfaction that he threw her under the bus, kicked her to the curb. And now your divorce is going smooth and you're getting everything. That's great. In the days following our split in December, I wondered if I did the right thing by not trying to repair things with Cheryl. Smack! You know why you got that smack. I loved her more than my life. I think most people second-guess the decisions they make in these sort of situations. When Sean told me that Bob dumped her and threw her out of his room, I had no more regrets. Cheryl remained a liar and would never change. She didn't dump Bob, he threw her out. She didn't drop out of school because I asked her to. She didn't have the tuition money to continue. If I paid her tuition before she asked for an open marriage, she'd be back at school. But there were still some questions I'd like to answer for her. Was Cheryl so devastated now because she ruined our marriage and she couldn't have me, or because Bob threw her out and she couldn't have him? Did she want Bob and I was just her fallback? The one who paid the bills, is she trying to get back with him too? Who the hell knows? But she's caught. She probably is just looking for the cake and eat it too situation. That's really what's going on. And her lover kicked her out. That's how they roll. And her meal ticket kicked her out too. And she's having a fucking meltdown. And guess what? If I recall, Cheryl is almost 30 years old. And so her prime is coming to an end. And now she has to start over. And her parents know a lot about who she really is, even though obviously dad doesn't want to know. So karma's come back to bite her in the ass. And you, my man, are all the wiser. You've gone through hell, and I'm sorry. But you're all the wiser now, and now you're going to begin your prime. Another question you might be wondering about are the results of the polygraph test Cheryl said she would take. And I asked your father to have her set up. Yes, I'm actually kind of curious about that. I'm wondering too. As far as I know, she never took the test. Shocker. Maybe her father thought she was too fragile. More likely, since he understood I wanted her to take the test, he would think this would maybe show my continuing interest in her. He pressed her to take the test because this might be a way for Cheryl and me to reconnect. If the results showed that after the affair with Bob was an aberration, not business as usual for her, he and Cheryl might think I'd be more forgiving. My guess is that she kept putting it off taking the polygraph because she knew the results would not be good and didn't want her parents to know. That's probably it. Maybe she did take it and the results showed she was lying about other affairs. She would never show me those results, saying she would prove that she was faithful before Bob, but the polygraph was just another lie. You can't believe a thing this gal says, and yet you get as far away from her as possible. Thank God the divorce should be finalized in July. Never, ever accept any communication from her, ever. He says, she certainly cheated on me in college after we agreed to a monogamous relationship. Did she cheat after college, after she moved in with me, while we were married and was working? The years she worked before returning to school were almost all of our life together. I don't know, but looking back on the time, I have my suspicions. She spent a lot of late nights at work, working hard to get promoted. Yeah, what was she doing to work hard to get promoted? I didn't complain because I trusted her, and since she hated her job, getting promoted into a more satisfying job would be great for her. My suspicions centered around her boss. Her boss, named Jim, was in his mid-30s. She told me Jim was a cool guy who would look out for her and make sure she advanced in the company. Yeah, she was effing Jim. She would tell me about him when she started working at the company. He was happily married, she told me. He was funny, good-looking, but not as good-looking or as funny as I was. The fact that she had to say that, she was doing him. She assured me that she had no romantic interest in him. He was just a nice guy who'd look out for her. Yeah, sure. It was always first at work in the morning, and I was always there when she worked late. Oh, what a coincidence. But others were there too. Was she effing the others too? She was quick to add, sometimes when she came home late, she smelled of liquor. I asked about that, and she said she went for a drink with some of the girls from the office to unwind. To get to know them better, girl gossip. And after a while, she just stopped talking about Jim. But I can't help wonder now if Jim was more to her than just a boss. Well, bro, I certainly hope that your girl wasn't hooking up with yet more guys, because that's obviously more terrible for you. But given her track record and what we've all learned about, I wouldn't believe a damn thing she says, and I wouldn't put it past her to sleep with anybody. I wouldn't put it past her to walk down the street and hook up with any guy that crossed her path at this point. Taking back someone as damaged as Cheryl would have been hell for me. I would never know what she was doing behind my back and with whom. The full access to her phone and social media would have lasted only a short time. Letting me know where she was at all times would have ended as well. A, you should never have taken her back, and I know you know this, and B, someone like that you can never trust. You can't have a relationship without trust. There's no fucking trust. And once a cheater, always a cheater, and she's taken that to a whole new fucking level. This girl is evil, and she is a pathological liar. I can go on and on forever about what I think of her. In fact, I think she was the most diabolical, evil woman I've ever covered in this channel, to be honest with you. She had given me some excuse to stop all that, probably saying I was too controlling, and she felt suffocated. She couldn't be happy living like that. I can almost hear her saying, how could I not trust her since I've been so good? She's been so good in the weeks since we got back together. She'd been going back to school, and I'd be there to pay tuition. The old patterns would emerge, and she'd probably have found another Bob to help her with her schoolwork and fit in. I couldn't live with her being her parole officer anyway. If I took her back, I would just postpone the inevitable divorce. I don't need to be married to someone who might give me another STD. Sure, future partners might give me an STD, but she gave one to me. Yeah, dude, you don't need to justify anything. Nobody here faults you for not giving her a second chance or anything like that. No. Cheryl still occasionally texts, leave voicemails for me. Jesus Christ, she doesn't give up. How am I doing? Do you still hate me? I still love you. Can we talk or get together? My therapist has been helping me figure out why I went crazy when I went back to school, all the other hurtful things I did. I want to explain my behavior to you. You deserve an explanation. I need closure, and I'm sure you do too. Can we meet? No, bitch, we can't meet. Stop fucking calling me. I don't respond to her and never will. Sean was right. I didn't need to hear what finally happened between Bob and her. Her lie about it was the last nail in the coffin. Cheryl's out of my life forever, but there are still lingering questions. So guys, there you go. That ends part 4. Part 3 and 4 today. This has been quite the action-packed couple of days from the channel. This is one of the best stories I've ever done. And I'm so sorry for, bro, what you went through here. But I thank God that you've got good friends and family, and thank the Lord, smooth divorce. And oh, I love that part when Big Bob kicked her ass out and threw her under the bus. That's how they roll. Always. But you know what, man? You are, I think you said you're 29, maybe 30 at this point. You got your whole life ahead of you. This is hell and would screw up anybody for a long time, but you will get through it day by day. You'll get through it. I'm glad to hear you're going to the gym and you got your bros and getting out. That's great. You got guys that are invested in this story all over the world that have got your back, including me. And so whenever you have any future updates, send them my way. You'll get bumped up to the top, and I'll definitely cover your story in the future. And guys, just like before, in part 2, I said, if you want to hear updates, let this guy know. So let him know in the comment section right now if you'd like further updates on how he's doing, the finalizing of the doors, any crazy shit that he's found out about her, she got hit by a bus, anything. Request an update in the comment section, and he will definitely do it down the road when there's more updates. But bro, just take it one day at a time. You're going to be okay. And remember, you're going to your prime now. Okay, so just focus on your career. I don't know what you do, but you said that you got a damn good job, good boss. That's awesome. And the sky's the limit. And just listen to the things I talk about in this channel. Keep your eyes open for the red flags. Don't make the mistakes you did in the past, and you're going to be okay. And as for her, well, no other way to put it, she's fucked. She's going to be in her 30s, and she is damaged goods. And sadly, one day when she recovers, she'll rope up some other victim in, and that'll happen again. And you know her parents aren't going to tell any future guys about her, but that is what it is. But you're going to be okay. And your story will definitely help a lot of guys out around the world, and I thank you for sending that in. I appreciate it. And again, bro, if you have any updates, let me know. You'll get bumped up right to the top. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let us know what you think. Again, you want to hear future updates, just like yesterday, update. That's all you got to write in the comment section. He will read it. And the more you guys say update, the more he will definitely do it if there's something to share. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.